This was my very first hand-stitched bag. So I'm going to give you my thoughts on the pattern for this bag, as well as the costs associated with making this bag. And I'm also going to tell you about all of the parts that I really messed up on. I'm actually a really big fan of Tony C., who is the owner, creator, everything behind Diesel Punk Row. And I feel like his patterns are very user-friendly, very beginner-friendly. So I make lots of his pork pie hats. Absolutely love these, love how they come out. So I thought, well, why not do my first bag from him? But here's the problem. This bag is for my husband, and he can be really picky. So I just went right on over to the Diesel Punk Row website, and there were two different bags that I was looking at and gave my husband the option of. One was the weekend bag, it's a duffel bag, and the other was this gentleman's bag. And he immediately went for the gentleman's bag, but he did want some changes made to it, which is where my problems began. Okay, so this bag has a number of different things going on with it. First, on the front here, you can see that there's this big flap, and it comes with this little rectangle that you can customize with your maker's mark. I put our last name on that, and then I did do the buttons here instead of the buckles, just because I felt like it would be easier to close and open instead of having to go through a buckle. And it is unlined. This pouch down here is also unlined. I do find that it's a little difficult to actually close this when it's empty. So just keep that in mind. I think for the next one, I would actually do maybe a magnetic closure behind a buckle on that. So this is the gusset on the side, and it does have a stitched on band on top of that for the actual D-ring that holds your straps. And it runs all the way across the bottom. Now, that's my issue. I'll tell you all about that in a second. And then the back side of this has pockets. My husband actually wanted some real particular changes made to the bag. First off, he has this massive laptop, and since he wanted to use this to go to work, he wanted me to make sure that it would fit his huge laptop with like all of the USBs and things still connected into it, which was a bit of a pain in the butt. So I had to both lengthen and widen this bag. And when I did that, I just did it to this main body. I didn't bother touching this pocket here. So I basically just took my pattern and I slashed and spreaded it on both sides of this pocket, so that way it didn't affect that. But of course, it did affect the actual gusset here too, because whatever changes I made to this large piece right back here, the main body of this bag, I also had to do to that gusset. And that's when I found out that I just can't measure. My measuring game is so off, you all. So yeah, I measured this thing 50 times. I added it up another 50 times. I transferred all of my changes, and I just knew it was all right. It wasn't. In fact, I didn't realize just how much it was off until I started stitching that strap onto the gusset, and I ran out of space. This strap right here that connects to the D-ring, it was just too short. I couldn't make it work. So I did cut it in half, and then I laser engraved that little empty space right there to make it seem like it's a little intentional. So it says love always, and I actually really do like that detail. So I think if I do this again, I'm going to make that an intentional detail next time. It really doesn't affect the structure of the bag at all. Now, although that strap was short and I had to cut it in half and lengthen it to make it work, this overall piece right here was just way too long on one side. And even though I cut it down to make it work, it wasn't happening. So let me see if I can show you. Maybe you can see it better from this side. See this side? I had to stitch up a couple of stitches and then come across and add on the top flap that closes, and it's really kind of unnoticeable. It's not that big of a deal. I consider just cutting it a little shorter there and then putting in some additional holes, but I mean, you would end up seeing some of those holes getting a little wonky on the inside, and I just thought that this was a less noticeable option, so that's what I went with, and I'm happy I did. Now this back piece is a piece that I lengthened. However, I did not lengthen the pocket in the back. I just left it the same size because I don't mind a pocket that doesn't come all the way up to the top here, and it was plenty large for his iPad or whatever he wants to put in there. The leather that I used for this, I actually picked up from Weaver Leather Supply, and it is their Old West pull-up leather. I got a side, which was about $130, and I think it did work out pretty nicely. My husband really wanted something that he could beat up and that would look really rugged and worn in, and well, I think it was a good option for that. Now let's talk about these really cool straps. So let me just tell you that finding really good webbing for straps can be difficult, and I found this really gorgeous webbing here. This is a cotton webbing, and it has something mixed in it, something that's a little shiny. But I picked this up at Georgia Girl Stitches on her website, and she has the most beautiful webbing available for straps on her website, so definitely check it out. I got 2 yards of this for $5, and it worked out really nicely for the straps. I attached some 1.5" swivel clips, and then I also used an 1.5" adjustable slide, so that way my husband could kind of just get it to where he wants it to be. For his comfort, I also added this little shoulder strap area to give him a little extra padding. I wish I had made this a little wider, so that's a change I'll make next time. But I mean, overall, I'm pretty happy with the way that this turned out. Now let's talk about the total cost and just the materials for this bag. So the hide itself that I had purchased was $130. However, I didn't use it all. I have about 7 square feet left on the hide. So when I back that out, it ends up being $98.80 in just leather for this bag. When you add in the $5 for the webbing and the cost of all of the hardware, you're looking at a grand total of $121.25 to make this bag right here. Now let's talk about how long it took me to make this bag. So as I had mentioned earlier, this was the first bag that I've hand stitched. So this was my first kind of real build outside of a hat. And well, I made a lot of mistakes in terms of just making my pattern alterations to having some real make it work moments, like splitting that bottom piece and doing some laser engraving there. And so the total amount of time that it took me just to like have all those make it work moments and everything was 9 hours total. As far as the pattern goes, I felt like the pattern was really beautifully made. The one thing that I did notice was missing from the pattern were the actual placements for the buttons here. So keep that in mind if you're making this one in particular. You're gonna have to figure out where those buttons go. Tony C does have some really amazing tutorials on his YouTube channel, and so I was able to follow it without any problems, and I think I ended up with a really beautiful end product. So I do want to make another one of these bags, and I'll probably even list it on my website when it is done, but I'm not going to do all of the extended pattern slashing and all of that stuff. I'm going to make one of the standard sizes that this pattern comes in, so that way I know that everything fits together without any issues. Although I'll continue to do that little split there on the bottom and laser engrave something really beautiful, just because I think it is a really nice detail. Overall, the pattern was a winner. The video tutorial was phenomenal, and I feel like all of the leather and hardware were of a really great quality. By the way, I'll list down in the description box where I got all of my hardware from. So that way, if you're looking for sources, you can check it out right down there. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. And until next time, I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye.